Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about Harry Potter, Unmask the Death Eaters. But before we do, we want to remind you to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. This game, Harry Potter Unmask the Death Eaters, is published by the app.
Alright, so this is a kind of a social deduction style game. You are trying to figure out who is a Death Eater and who is on the Order of the Phoenix. I'll give you a hint. Bethany is always the Death Eater.
That actually has not happened. Not in a single play.
But she's just suspicious in general.
I am very suspicious whenever I play social deduction games. It does not work in my favor.
In this game, you're trying to figure out who is the bad guy among you. You're trying to suss that out by going on different kind of quests together. All right, let me give a quick overview of how to play. All right, here's our setup for Unmask the Death Eaters. Basically, this is a social deduction style game where we are trying to figure out who is the Death Eaters among us. So basically, we have a deck of cards that we're going to deal out at the beginning of the game. It's going to have a whole bunch of Order of the Phoenix cards, and then one Death Eater card. Based on the number of players, there's kind of a different little setup. But basically, we're going to shuffle all those up, and we're going to deal them out. Everyone's going to secretly look at them and figure out who they are. If you are a Death Eater, your goal is trying to escape without anyone knowing who you are. If you are a member of the Order of the Phoenix, you're trying to figure out who all of the Death Eaters are. In addition to our loyalty cards, we also have our role cards. Now, these role cards are going to be things like a Hogwarts alumni, or maybe the Hogsmeade resident, things like that. These need to be dealt out evenly, so that way there's an equal number of all of them, or as close as we can get. So we don't want to have a situation where we have 2 of the Hogwarts alumni, but none of the residents of Hogsmeade. So we want to deal those out evenly. All right, next, all the players are going to get 5 of these cards dealt out to them. In those hands, they're going to be things like curses. Some of these curses are really bad. Some are just kind of, a little bit bad, not super bad. And then we have items. On the items are going to be listed what they are, as well as how many dice they might provide. All right, so we have all these different things. This one says this is an Essence of Bethany, and it will give you 2 dice when played in combat or as a result of the dice encounters. And that's really the main thing that we're going to be doing in this game is we're going to try to get through these different encounters. The encounters can be either based off of dice or based off of the item cards. So those are kind of multi-use in that way. All right, so we're going to take turns being the leader, and the leader is going to draw one of these encounters. So basically, the leader is going to have to look at the bottom, figure out how many players are going to be a part of this encounter, and on top of that, it gives you some requirements from the rolls. So 2 of that roll and 1 of that roll are going to be required in order to pull off this encounter. Even if you're suspicious of someone who's in one of those rolls, you still have to include them based off whatever that says. The rest of it says we're going to search for answers in Godric's Hollow. So each player who's involved is going to submit 1 card from their hand to this encounter. Then the leader's going to get a chance to kind of look at them, shuffle them up first, look at them, and they get a chance to swap one of them out. First of all, if there's any curses in their hand, they have to reveal the curses, do whatever the curses say. Some of them might fail the encounter right then and there. But whatever the encounter, if there's any curses, they have to fulfill those. Then they have a chance to swap out one card of their choice from that hand from the top card of the deck. So that's going to be an opportunity for one of the cards that says like 0 dice to swap it out for potentially a card that has more dice on it if more dice are required. Or if that particular round the leader is one of the Death Eaters, they might swap out one of the good cards with a bad card. All right, so the rest of this says, reveal all of the cards. Roll the accumulated dice. To win, you need to get 24 or more in 2 rolls. So in this case, you want to submit cards that have high number of dice on them. You still only have a maximum of 6 dice no matter what, but you want to have, if you're loyal, you want to submit a higher card so that way you can try to get as much number as possible to make sure that you pass that encounter. Other encounters might look like this. This particular one says this is a 3-person mission. It needs to include at least 1 of those rolls. This one says every player involved has to reveal a card as normal, or submit a card. This one's shuffle, then reveal a random card. Also, only 1 card's going to get revealed this time. To win, you must reveal a crystal ball. So it's a lot trickier. You're going to have 3 cards in there. If there's even one bad guy who submits something besides a crystal ball, you have a 33% chance of pulling that card and then losing that encounter. You also run the risk of including one of the good guys who doesn't necessarily have a crystal ball in their hand, in which case they have to put something else in. But of course, it's also the argument the bad guy might use as well. All right, so no matter what, if you were able to finish the encounter successfully, you're going to flip over one of these tokens. And what's going to happen is you are trying to defeat a giant and a Dementor. There's different things in here. There's even a spell that lets you figure out who some people are. But there's also the giants and the Dementors who you're trying to defeat. If you ever lose a mission, you're going to go up on this track. This kind of acts as a game timer as well. But during the end of the game, there's going to be a Revelio card revealed, and the farther back this token is, the better it is for the good guy team, or actually for anyone for that matter, because they're going to be able to kind of figure out some information about which side everyone's loyalty is on. At the middle of the game, though, there is one tricky thing I want to mention. Let's say after we've defeated a giant, and after we've defeated a Dementor, where's my Dementor? There it is. We're going to have a phase called Shifting Loyalties. So remember, at the beginning of the game, we dealt out a whole bunch of Order of Phoenix cards and one Death Eater card. But now what's going to happen is we're going to shuffle up another deck of the same thing, more Order of Phoenix cards and one Death Eater card. We're going to deal them out again. If both times you received an Order of the Phoenix card, you're still Order of the Phoenix. But on either one of those decks, if you were dealt the Death Eater card, you are now a Death Eater. So even at the beginning of the game, if you were Order of the Phoenix, you might become a Death Eater. And if you were a Death Eater and you were dealt an Order of the Phoenix card later on in the game, you're still a Death Eater. So now people that you thought you could trust, now you're not so sure about anymore. It's going to get trickier and trickier as the game goes on. The game is going to end once either this track has come all the way to the end there, at which time it's time for the moment of truth. We're going to try to figure out who the bad guys are, but you're going to have a little bit less information. Or you can also get to the end of the game by going through and filling up the first area, going through the shifting loyalties phase, and then finishing up the second area as well. And that way you get to that Revelio token, figure out a little bit more information before that moment of truth. So when you get to that point, it's the end of the game. Now what's going to happen, whoever is that leader at that final encounter, they're going to nominate another player to be the final leader. All players need to vote on that person to see whether they want to elect that player as the final leader. They're going to be the ones who are ultimately responsible for trying to figure out who the Death Eaters are at this last kind of phase. A majority does need to agree upon them, so that might give some information as well. So it's kind of like a pull out your thumb kind of a thing. 1, 2, 3, vote. If you thumbs up, you agree. Thumbs down, you disagree. And then you keep on going around in a circle until eventually one person is elected the final leader. So in a 4, 5, or 6 player game, there could either be 1 or 2 Death Eaters out there. So whoever that final leader is, they need to figure out who those 1 or 2 people are, and that's how many names they're going to submit. In a 7 or 8 player game, it's possible there's 2 or even 3 of the Death Eaters. So based off how those cards were dealt out, you have to submit that many names as that final leader. A perfect victory is going to be achieved by the Order of the Phoenix if all of the Death Eater names are submitted. There is a partial victory that you can get if 1 Death Eater is submitted, so that way you at least caught half of the people. The Death Eaters, they get a chance to win if their name is not submitted as one of the potential Death Eater names during that final phase. So there's different win conditions depending on what side you are and how it all shakes out at the end.
If you watched that and it looked really familiar, it's because it is. This is actually a re-implementation of the Thing Outpost, or the Thing Infection Outpost 31. It is very similar. It's just kind of stripped down. It's like watered down a little bit. One of the things that I think is great about this is the theme is really perfect. I think that theme works really well when it teaches you how to play, or it's easier to learn how to play because of the theme, and I feel like the theme actually works really well for this. You're trying to be with everybody to get information when you're a Death Eater, but you also can't give yourself away because then you're outed and you won't be able to do anything else. But also because of those colors, you're forced to take people on missions with you too. So that's kind of cool that you have to deal with that. But I just thought that the theme worked really well in terms of how to play the game and how the game progressed.
I like social deduction games, kind of a late night party game kind of a thing going on. A lot of them are like higher player counts, right? You want like 6 to 10 or 12, things like that, the higher player counts. This one went down all the way to 4. It's just 4 to 8. So we decided to explore that player count, right?
Yeah.
It works better at higher player counts. Let's say that up front. It works better at 7 or 8. But we tried it at 4 and it still worked.
Yeah.
We tried it with our family, which was a blast. One thing I do want to point out is we have a 6-year-old, and anytime she's the bad guy in any game, she has a terrible poker face.
Yeah.
Even in, like, let's say, like Love Letter, if she gets dealt like the princess,
yes,
ooh, she just can't contain her excitement.
Yeah.
So one thing I tried out, which worked out really, really well.
Really, really well.
Free advice for you guys. If you're playing the social deduction games with your crowds, what I had us do was, when we did our reveal to see what our card was, whether we were Order of the Phoenix or whether we were a Death Eater, I had us all act surprised.
Yeah.
No matter what. So that before we dealt our cards, we all were on board. So that way we all flip our cards over. We all act surprised.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy. And that way she wasn't outed as
Yeah.
You know, because she would have been
one side or the other. It
either
didn't matter.
way. 'Cause
Like,
if she was just like got it and was like, okay, cool.
Exactly.
We would have
We would've
known
known.
what she was that way too.
yeah. So it worked so well. It was a brilliant idea. It was brilliant. It worked out really well. I think another thing that is good about this game is it's really straightforward. You understand it. You're just drawing the card, and I mean that. A social deduction is kind of weird, and since we were playing with our 6-year-old, I know that it's straightforward because she understood it. But you flip over the card and you read it. You have to have the certain characters go along in the mission, and then you succeed or you don't. And so, like, it's really straightforward, and trying to trick people or trying to help people in what you have. Don't choose me. I only have curses, or I can definitely help with that, but you can't. Like, it was super straightforward of doing these missions, and then if you're able to complete it, you're fighting a monster together, and how you can still, even being a Death Eater, like, mess up with that. It just, like, it was really easy to learn and was really straightforward. I said it like 5 times already, but I do mean that.
This is a great bullet point. It was drilling it home. It's straightforward. Did you know that it was straightforward?
But what I mean by that is, like, since we played with our 6-year-old, social deduction is a weird concept, and the fact that she understood what we are doing, why we are doing, and when we are doing it, I thought was a good thing.
Very straightforward. One of the aspects of a social deduction game that's really important
Is that it's straightforward?
is that we all have cards that no one knows what they are.
Yeah.
Whether it be our roles, whether it be the cards, the actions that are in our hand that people don't know what they are. It's really important to keep all that secret. One problem that we had with this game is the component quality was pretty on the lower side. It makes it very affordable, right?
Yeah.
It makes it if they can make more of them and make them faster and make them cheaper or whatever, so you can buy it cheaper. But these were square-cornered cards, which I'm not a big fan of. Those are very easy to get damaged. They're very thin. They're very flimsy.
Very, very thin.
I would recommend, if this is a game that you plan on playing and playing a lot of it, I would sleeve these cards immediately. If you have one of those card corner clippers, I would clip these corners to round them off to make them less damage susceptible. Put them in sleeves immediately, so that way you are going to be much more likely to keep the cards pristine for longer.
Yeah,
so that
which
way
you
no one
need.
knows
Yeah.
what cards you have.
Yeah, I really liked this game. I thought it was very fun, and it was very different than all the other Harry Potter games that we've played, and we've played quite a few Harry Potter games. We might have played every single Harry Potter game that's out there, maybe outside of a Monopoly or something like that. Yeah, we've played a lot of them. And so I feel like it plays differently than a lot of those games. A lot of them are cooperative, and this one isn't cooperative, or a lot of them just have different aspects. It's not a social deduction game. So I felt like if you're a huge Harry Potter fan, it does fill a niche. With that said, this is the same game as The Thing, just watered down. There's less components, you're doing less, you're not, interacting with the board. And I personally just really, really like The Thing. I really like that game a lot, and I would choose to play that over this. With that said, our daughters would 100% choose to play this. In fact, the first time we played it, when we finished that first round, our eldest was like, okay, deal them out again.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. I'm ready to go. And so, like, it's kind of weird that it has that pull and tug. I don't feel like there needs to be both in a collection, but I don't even know which one to keep, because this is the one our daughter's going to want, where I'm going to want The Thing. That's a difficult choice.
Yeah, I think I agree. For Harry Potter fans, this is an interesting choice. It's something different. It's a departure.
Oh, yeah.
The rules are not complicated. It'll be something that a casual fan is going to be able to pick up and play, even if they're not a board gamer. I think that's really, really important for getting people into the hobby. Give them an accessible theme and accessible game.
Yeah.
This does a great job of that. I, too, am on team The Thing. I like that one better. It's a bigger production, a better production, and it had the miniatures and the board, which I liked. But this is not a bad choice, especially for Harry Potter fans. It's really, if you want a faster experience or a longer experience, they both play very, very similarly, and both are a good time.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
You guys, thanks so much for watching. This game was provided to us by a publisher in exchange for a fair and honest review.
And if you want to see more stuff, check out over here to see something we think you might like.
And over here, we think that YouTube has picked out a great video for you you're going to love. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.